Hey, everybody, this is the sixth week of 2025, and you all know what that means. It means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, and www.welikesportspc.com proudly presents to you their podcast tag team champions of the world, the Cleat Geek Mike Valentine. There he is, Moneybags Mitch Middlebrook, and we are the 6, 4, 3, and out guys, and you're listening to the Sportz Truth. Today, without any further ado, let's just go right to the walk-up music.
20 seconds start now. Ten seconds remaining. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
All right, Mitch, my brother, how you doing? Oh, I tell you how I'm doing. The Super Bowl is over. Football is in its off season, and what's right around the corner? Woo! Spring training is on the way, buddy. My favorite time of year, and we're gonna rock with it because today on the Sportz Truth, myself and Moneybags Mitch Middlebrook are going to talk about the following things for all of you in the next hour and a half. We always say, but it ends up going like 2 hours. So we'll see how it all works out. Today, we're going to do, can Mike Trout return to form in 2025? We have a lot of questions on this topic. We're going to look at his past and what his future may be. Will Ryan Day's latest contract from Ohio State keep him in Columbus until the contract is over? We will discuss the Eagles' possible visit to the White House. And you say, possible? Yeah, it is not a done deal. We'll tell you why and what's going to happen. We're going to talk about a cap and 2 patches in MLB. I know, you're confused. It's okay. We'll explain that too. Again, a cap and 2 patches. One for Mitch and one for me, because one's for his team and one's for mine. The coaches versus the players' salary in the NFL, you might be surprised what some of the coaches make, but you might even be more surprised by what some of the players make. The age of free agents in MLB. Is that really what matters right now? Is their age? We're going to talk about spring training in the Tokyo series. But first, Mitch, we are going to do what is next for the Kansas City Chiefs.
20 seconds start now.
I was ready, but I'm not ready now. I was done being ready. All right, buddy. How you been, man? It's been a week since I've seen you. How is everything?
Good. Yeah, good. Can't complain. Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl, and like you said, it's officially baseball season, so it's the best time of the year.
I know some crazy person today asked me, oh, Valentine, are you going to be going to spring training games? And I was like, yeah, just a few. I'm probably going to get to. I tell you what, my goal's 25 this year. You got a goal as far as how many games you want to get to, buddy?
I'm hoping for at least 10. I don't know. We'll have to see how cheap I can get some tickets, but yeah, well, I'm hoping for at least double digits.
All right, we'll leave that up to me, buddy. We'll get some tickets and we'll go to some games, and 10 I think is a little I'm gonna take the over on 10.
Yeah.
All right, we will get to some betting lines here in just a few moments. We will do one for the NFL, one for NBA, and one for MLB. So stay tuned for all of those things. But first, Mitch, as we talked about, it's going to be what is next for the Kansas City Chiefs. And in of course, we do NFL 4-down territory here. And we're going to set this up a little bit for people who are listening to us. We're going to set this up a lot better for sponsorship, right? So as we're doing NFL 4-down territory, if you're out there and you're listening right now and you're thinking, you know what? I may actually like to sponsor those two bozos doing this podcast. We're going to have first down, second down, third down, and fourth down. And just think, you could sponsor one or all of them. Here's first down. The free agencies. So currently, the Kansas City Chiefs are 21st in the NFL in projected salary cap space. They have an estimated $15.7 million to spend. Mitch, you and I both know that ain't going to get them what they need. What are they going to do, buddy? What are the Chiefs going to do?
Yeah, that's just not nearly enough for what this team needs and what they're going to need going into next season. It's always interesting to see the kind of maneuvering and finagling that teams do to work around the salary cap and things like that. So I'm sure that they'll figure something out to get that number bigger. Now, how much bigger? That's the question, and what they're going to be able to do to kind of work around that salary cap hit is going to be the biggest determining factor of what pieces they add. How long term of pieces and kind of what those deals look like to get people into Kansas City. But yeah, they 15.7 million the way they sit right now. That is just not going to be enough to get them what they need.
No, it's not even going to be close enough to get them what they mean. I mean, they got some really good free agents, and we're going to talk about that next here as we continue our first down, sponsored by nobody yet. We'll get there, though. All right, so the free agents that they have, so they've got guard Trey Smith. He is actually Pro Football Focus's number 2 in their top 100. And by the way, starting next week, we're going to look at Pro Football Focus's top 100. We're going to take it 10 at a time, start at 100 in our NFL 4-down territory segment, and look at the bottom 10. Then we'll start with 90 and go up. And, you guys can do simple math. You know. So, number 2 on the top 100 is guard Trey Smith. So in the last 4 seasons, he's played 17 games, 16 games, then 17 and 17 again. 96% of the snap count. He's 6'8", 321 pounds as a 25-year-old person. And in his 4 years, he has only had 24 penalties, Mitch. What do you think about Trey Smith and their odds of signing him, knowing where they sit at salary cap wise?
Yeah, I really don't think there's any way. Trey Smith is going to get paid, and honestly, I think the biggest thing that you mentioned is his reliability. Playing 96% of snaps, he's just been super, super dependable. And to have that little of penalties over that time, he's a really valuable piece on line that they're just. The way they sit right now, they're not going to be able to pay. They would love to, and they'd love to have him back. I don't know how much, winning matters to him and how much he's grown to love Kansas City or like it. Hopefully they're hoping that they can get him on a little bit of a team friendly deal, but we'll see. I mean, he's going to be able to ask for whatever he wants in free agency. So I really don't see him landing there with their salary issues.
Right. So this is just number 1 of the free agents. We're going to talk about a few more people, but as we do, you guys can comment and be part of the show. I already see we're in double digits right at the moment, and I certainly appreciate that. Mitch does as well. He's shaking that head right there like, yeah, we appreciate that. All right, guys. So you can click on the comment button, top right-hand side of the screen, and you can leave comments for us. We'll post them right up here on the big board, and we will make you part of the show. So they also have linebacker Nick Bolton. He is actually, number 34 in the top 100 list. Pro Football Focus. Nick Bolton, 57 games in 4 years. He is 5'11", 237 pounds. He is also 24 years old. He's had 11 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 73 solo tackles this year. He averaged 137 tackles in every year for those 4 years. And this season, he had 7 quarterback hits. Once again, that's Nick Bolton. That's a free agent that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to have to try to sign. along with guard Trey Smith, and they've got $15.7 million to do so. How are they going to do that, Mitch?
Yeah, they're just not going to be able to get all these guys we talk about. Honestly, I will say I think Nick Bolton is the most important for them to re-sign. This is the heart and soul of their defense, and it doesn't always show up in the statistics or the numbers. But Nick Bolton, you watch a Kansas City Chiefs game, no matter what the play ends in, Nick Bolton is in that screen, and he's somewhere in that pile. He's the quarterback of that defense, and he is a huge piece of the Kansas City Chiefs defense. If they want to resemble the defense that they've had and have had success under Spagnuolo, a really key piece of that is Nick Bolton. So I think they're going to be hard strapped to do a lot of these things. With how little cap they have, but this is one that's got to be 1A, 1B on their list to make sure that they kind of ride the ship.
All right, so Nick Bolton's number 2. Number 3 is also on the top 100 list. He comes in at number 82. Tershawn Wharton is there. His actual pass rush true number is 75.5. He is a rotational piece. But he's very important to this team. I don't want to gloss over him, but I'm going to put 2 people in this category here because they also have Charles Omenihu, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He is a defensive lineman too, 78 games in 6 years. He's averaged 4.3 sacks per season, averaged 12 quarterback hits. He's 6'5", 280. He's a little older at 27, but he's still pretty important. Both those guys are still pretty important to their rotational pieces. Are they going to be able to sign these guys, Mitch?
I think these guys might be the easiest to sign out of anybody we're going to talk about, but I think the money's going to be better spent elsewhere. You can't lose too much because, to your point, they really do rely on those rotational pieces to get pressure on the quarterback. But it's, man, I think when you're faced with all these other guys that we're talking about, Trey Smith, Nick Bolton, those guys got to be higher on your list than either of these 2 guys, even though getting pressure is really important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, these guys might not be high on the list, but they may be the affordable people on the list. So, I think they're going to have to prioritize and figure out who they're going to do. Sirhan, buddy, I got you up there. We appreciate it. Good evening to you, sir. I know you're there in Cincinnati. Tell me what the weather's like there in Cincinnati. We were talking about spring training earlier. The Reds are here now in Goodyear, Arizona. They reported today, did pitchers and catchers. And my buddy is coming out from Cincinnati later on next month. We'll be going to a lot of those spring training games together. So, Sirhan, do me a favor, buddy. Tell me what the weather's like in Cincinnati, Ohio right now. I'm curious because I want to see if I need to call him after the show and make fun of him because, it's like 80 degrees here. So, well, hang on. I'll put it up there real quick, Sirhan. Low 30s and snowing in Cincinnati. Yuck and double yuck. Ugh. Who wants to be in snow? You know what snow stands for? Snow is something no one wants. That's an acronym for something no one wants. That's what snow is. So, all right, buddy. Thank you for participating in the show, and all of you there. Again, we are already in double digits. We appreciate you guys coming on board with us. We just keep adding and adding and adding as we go on. You can also participate like Sirhan. You can click the comment button in the upper right, type it in, and we'll put it up here. Uh-oh. Hang on. He's not done yet. So he says, more like, yuck. Yeah. Well, Sirhan, you're the person who chooses to live there. I used to live there. Now I live here. And there's a reason for that, buddy. All right, let's go back to what is next for the Kansas City Chiefs. We're talking about the people that they have as far as free agency goes. We've already gone over Trey Smith. We've gone over Nick Bolton. We've got Tershawn Wharton and Charles Omenihu, I believe is how you say his name. Now we're going to go to safety. Justin Reed, number 50 on the Pro Football Focus list. Again, a very important piece to what the Kansas City Chiefs do. He has 106 games in 7 years with 10 interceptions, 580 tackles for loss. He has 428 of those are solo. He is, believe it or not, 6'1", 207 pounds, and he is 27 years old. Again, that's safety Justin Reed. Mitch, what do you think about the safety spot in Kansas City this year?
Yeah, another huge piece. I mean, him and Nick Bolton. The fact that both of them are coming up, free agents this season, is really unlucky for the Chiefs. They're again gonna have to really, really struggle and scrape those pennies together to try to sign these guys. And it's just you can't sign all of them. There's gonna be some of these guys that get to walk, and there's nothing they can do about it. They just don't have the money.
And of course, the last guy we got to look at here, whether I want to or not, because he is a big part of their team. Taylor's boyfriend. We have to look at that guy. So Travis Kelce, 175 catches in 12 years. Let me get my notes a little closer to my face here. So he's been targeted 135 times this year with 97 receptions. I got to give it to him. That's a heck of a target reception rate. He is 6'5", 250 pounds at 35 years old. Here you go, Mitch. Can Kansas City put a good offense on the field without Travis Kelce?
I think they can. We've seen Noah Gray come up big in a lot of moments. It's definitely a lot easier when you have a guy like Travis Kelce and that chemistry that he and Pat have. And honestly, I think, this may be the easiest for them to re-sign because I do think they'll get a hometown discount. I think Kelce knows that he's 35 and getting up there. And I think the relationship that he has with Mahomes and in the city of Kansas City, he doesn't want to go elsewhere. He also wants to stay in Kansas City, which I'm sure they would like to figure out a way to bring him back at least for one more year. So I think this one will actually be the easiest for them to get done out of these four that we're talking about. And I think it'll, kind of be beneficial for both sides. Kelce probably gets some incentives and gets his money that way. And also gets one more year of Pat Mahomes to, try to cement his legacy as well.
We're going to do something different here after we finish the Travis Kelce wrap up. Just hang on for me for a minute. Tell me what you think. Put your comments up there in the top right-hand corner. We're going to do something different here in just a second. We'll get to it. I'm going to give you the good and the bad of Travis Kelce here in his 12th season with the Kansas City Chiefs. Mitch, he only had 3 touchdowns this season. His longest reception was only 38 yards. And yes, he caught a lot of passes. He's basically a third down guy, and I'm not saying that's not important. He's basically a safety net for them, and he did get his 10th Pro Bowl selection. So, to be really honest with you, I'm not sure if they wouldn't be better with Noah White than what they would be without, with Travis Kelce. And much like Mitch and I, we're making tons of money off this podcast, and Travis and his brother. They can make tons of money outside of football, and he doesn't have to take the hits, and he doesn't have to go through all the practices, and he doesn't have to do all those other things that teams expect of him. He avoided the question after the Super Bowl when he was asked a couple of times, which tells me that he is not completely on board with doing another season. I'm going to predict now that I think Travis Kelce will retire sometime during the offseason, and the Kansas City Chiefs will be without him for the foreseeable future. Are you gonna give me a prediction on retirement or not, or are you just gonna hang out over there, Mustache Man?
No, I don't think he'll retire. I think his ego's too big, and he probably doesn't want to go out getting embarrassed like this. 2 catches in the Super Bowl, just an abysmal performance. Really, really sad. I don't think
Like
he'll.
he was the only one.
Oh yeah, no. Chiefs in general had a terrible performance, but I don't think he'll want to go out that way. I think he'll be back for one more.
Okay, so we'll see which one of us is right and which one of us is wrong here. It's usually the way this works on this show is we love each other, but we disagree sometimes. So that's okay. We still love each other, even though we disagree. So let's do something different. If you've been watching the show, you know what that means. We are going to do a live Twitter poll question today, the Sportz Truth live poll question. Next year, the Kansas City Chiefs will And as I turn to this side where the other computer is, here are your choices, ladies and gentlemen. You can choose go to the Super Bowl. The Kansas City Chiefs will playoffs, but no Super Bowl. They will be no playoffs next year, or they will finish below 500. So those are your choices. I'm going to click the button here. We're going to put it up on our Twitter at the 643 and out pod. Once again, the Sports Truth live poll question is the following. Next year, the Kansas City Chiefs will go to the Super Bowl. They will go to the playoffs, but no Super Bowl. They will do no playoffs whatsoever, or they will finish at they will finish below 500. I'm going to click it. There it is. It is now up on our Twitter. But before the fans can vote here, buddy, I'm going to ask you, Mitch, which one of those four would you choose?
It's tough to say. Honestly, I'm sick of being wrong about the Chiefs, and they always seem to make it farther than I think they will. But I'm going to say playoffs, no Super Bowl. I think they lose in the AFC Championship next season.
You know what? Let me talk about the third down here real quick first. The second down was the Sports Live Truth poll question, and the third down, once again, could be sponsored by someone that is not yet. So, yes, the third down, I shouldn't hit the camera so hard. It knocks it off point. The division, and this is why I'm going to choose when I'm going to choose here in a moment on our Twitter poll question that is live right now up on our Twitter page. Mitch, as we're going along here, buddy, tell me, what is your Twitter page, sir?
Yeah, you'll find me at MitchellBrook52 on Twitter. If you feel free to follow along, and I'll give you a follow back.
All right, excellent, sir, excellent. So the division, both the Broncos and the Chargers should be better. So I'm going to ask you, Mitch, will the Chiefs even win that division, which of course is the AFC West?
You know, I think they still will. I don't think it's, just because of this embarrassing Super Bowl loss. I still think the Chiefs are the kings of the AFC for now until someone dethrones them. And yeah, I don't think either of those teams are ready to dethrone the Chiefs, especially in the AFC West.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you again. It's like the theme of the show today, but that's all right. We can do this. I like it when we kind of disagree, and then we let our fans tell us who's right and who's wrong. They can do that once again by clicking on that comment right there in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. I really like what Denver's doing. I like Bo Nix. Sean Payton is a coach who has, much like Andy Reid, and we'll talk about Sean Payton and Andy Reid here in just a little bit on the coaching salaries when we get to that point. I think Denver's going to come up and surprise them. I'm going to say Denver's going to win this division. Of course, as you said earlier, it's really hard. We've not drafted anybody yet. We don't know who they're getting in free agency. It is relatively difficult to pick really who's going to do anything right at the moment. But I'm just saying I like their trajectory, and I like their head coach, and I like their newfound quarterback. So I'm going to give those three things a little bit of a shot in the dark here and say that they will come up and get them. And then on the Twitter poll question, I'm going to say no playoffs for Kansas City this coming year.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I hope you're right.
Me too. Maybe that's what it is more than anything. It's just me hoping that I'm right. Okay, so fourth down here in our NFL four-down territory. What issues do the Chiefs need to address? I've got four. Mitch, I'll talk to you about each one of the four separately here. So the offensive line, it was ugly at the Super Bowl. And I think we would both agree, and so would most of our fans, if not all of them, that they need to address that offensive line before next season. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, that was a really poor performance. It's even a worse performance when you see that there wasn't a single blitz that whole game. They were getting home that much with their front four rushing the whole night. Not a single blitz called, and that's pretty crazy when you realize that Patrick Mahomes was sacked more in one game, or the most in one game in his career in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, that's a huge hole. They just looked out of sorts the whole game.
The second one I'm going to look at is the running backs, Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco. Now, I know Pacheco came back from a broken leg, so I'm going to give him at least a little bit of a pass as far as how he's going to run this season. It's kind of like J.K. Dobbins when he was with the Chargers. It was a great story. I thought he did really well, but at the same point, he was coming back from J.K. Dobbins, from multiple injuries. Isaiah Pacheco coming back from a broken leg. So, what do you think about their running back group, man?
Yeah, I don't think either of these guys are good enough to be starting running backs. I think they're both really good backups, and Kareem Hunt is probably at that point where he's even lucky to be that. Um, I think Pacheco could still be a really solid backup, but I don't see either of these guys as a number one back that you can really rely on for your team. I think they gotta do something else there, because those guys just there were times this year where they looked okay, but the older they get and the more they're relied on, they're not going to be able to do it.
All right, so the next thing we're going to look at is the receiver room. There's breaking news on their receiver room today. If you haven't heard, we'll get to it in about 30 seconds. But Rashid Rice is going to be there. Xavier Worthy is going to be there. But Marquise Brown is not going to be there, even though he was injured this past season. And I don't know if you heard today, according to Andy Reid, um, our guy that used to be with the Cardinals, and he's made a few other stops there, and DeAndre Hopkins told Andy Reid today, again, according to Andy Reid, I haven't actually heard Deshaun or D-Hop say it, but Andy Reid said he retired today. So I'm sure we'll get clarification on that here in the coming days, maybe even before that. But that receiving room, they're going to get back Rashid Ross. They're going to keep Xavier Worthy, of course, but they're going to lose Hollywood Brown, and they're going to lose D-Hop. So that receiver room is going to take a hit. How bad's the hit going to be?
Yeah, a lot of work to do there too, and not a lot of work because of what they're losing. D-Hop didn't really have too much production, but another third down guy that they're going to be losing. Their wide receiver room wasn't great all year, especially without Rashid Rice. Getting him back will help, but they still need to add a true number one to help some of those guys out. Xavier Worthy, kind of that speedy type, he's not a number one wide receiver. They need to add somebody there to help those other guys shine. But yeah, I mean, getting back Rashid Rice will help, but it's still not going to be enough.
Right, and then he may be suspended at least for some of the season because of the car accident and all that stuff. You can look all that up if you want to get more and more into that. But I don't think he'll be there for every game this season. He'll be suspended for at least some of them, so that'll cause a hole in that receiver room as well. And lastly, we keep saying it, we keep doing it, we keep looking at it. Is Noah Gray going to be good enough to take over for Travis Kelce if he decides not to come back? What do you think about him replacing Kelce?
See, this is the one that I actually think they're in the best spot with, and that's kind of sad to say because a lot of these are big holes, and obviously losing Travis Kelce going to Noah Gray is a big downgrade as well. But I actually think they've been kind of priming and setting up for this for a long time now. Noah Gray, is kind of that similar play style to Kelce. He's probably even a little better of a blocker, which helps them. They can use him in more, different plays, and he's not just a receiver out there like Travis Kelce is. So I actually think this one they're probably the best in. But it's still, you're going to take a hit going from Travis Kelce to Noah Gray.
All right. So here in just a moment, we're basically going to do a hodgepodge segment, which will be the next one. We're going to look at something that happened 7 years ago involving the Eagles. We're going to look at Ryan Day and OSU. We're going to look at a Twitter poll question, and then we're going to look at the coaching salary and the player salary in the NFL and kind of compare and look and contrast the two. So we'll do that here in our next segment coming up in just a moment. I'm not sure if this is the one that they're better off at, but I do kind of want to put a bow on the whole thing here before we get to the backfield betting line. which is something that is again a little bit new here. And once again, can't I'm not gonna do this. Uh, can be sponsored by someone if they would like to do that. Of course, Mitch Middlebrook here. We call him Money Bags, and he's going to give you some stuff here in a couple seconds. And there you go. It's the what was the quarterback that did that? Who was that?
Money Manziel, Jen
Yeah,
Manziel.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're doing the Manziel on us over here, buddy.
Mhm.
Okay. So I just wanted to do Kansas City first. We'll do the Eagles next week. I might even have a special guest to help us do that. I haven't confirmed yet, but we do have a special guest coming. I will confirm that in a couple moments when we get to the MLB. Mitch doesn't even know about this one, but I got somebody coming on next week with us for the first time in the new year. So we'll have a good special guest with us. So 15.7 million is all they've got. They have got 7 restricted free agents. 5 of them are in the top 100 of Pro Football Focus. So that's not counting having to address the running back room, possibly having to address the offensive one. Not possibly. They better address the offensive line. They probably want to do a different running back. They more than likely want to get another receiver or two. Kansas City is in a flux right at the moment, and it's going to be interesting to see how or if they handle that flux as we put a big bow on top of this. And now we're going to get to the backfield betting line. So what we're going to do is who is the favorite to win next year's Super Bowl, Mitch? Talk to me and tell me who those people are. Give me like the top 5 or 6 or something like that. Or I'll let you go.
Yeah. 2 days after winning the Super Bowl, they are the Super Bowl 2026 favorites, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll give you the list of teams, and then I'll give you where they're at money line wise. So it's going to be Eagles 1, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, all tied at 2. Then Lions, 49ers, and Commanders to round out the top 5. The Eagles right now are going to be plus 600. Then everybody at 2 is plus 700. Again, that's the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens. And then we got Lions in 4th at plus 900, or 3rd at plus 900, followed by the Niners at plus 1,500, and then the Washington Commanders at plus 1,800.
So let
And
me ask
actually,
you.
I'll tell you who is tied with the Washington Commanders. The Cincinnati Bengals at plus 18.
Plus 1,800. Okay. That's so I guess I'm going to ask you this way. Is there an advantage in making a bet now as opposed to sometime later on in the off season or like right before the season starts? When do you like to make these kind of bets?
I think it's kind of an advantage and disadvantage. It's like we were saying, it's the time that we know the least about what these teams are going to look like next season, but it's also the time that Vegas knows the least about what they're going to look like. And so a lot of these lines are going to shift. A lot of them are going to go down. A lot of them are going to go up. When we started the 2024 season, we saw the Super Bowl favorite, I believe, at plus 350. So they get a better idea of who's going to be competing for a Super Bowl that season. And those lines shift, and so you lose some value there. Right now, because we don't know much, you're going to see lines better. So if you have a gut feeling, if you know, you're really confident in somebody, if you think the Bills are really going to build off this season, or if you think the Lions are going to come back strong, or you think the Commanders and Jaden Daniels are going to make this leap next year, now's your time to put your money in on them, because if they do add pieces and they do position themselves to be, one of the best rosters and one of the best teams going into next season, their lines are going to dip quite a bit. So if you are really confident, it's a big guess and it's a big, gamble, literally. But now would be the time that you could get some really good value on these teams.
So would this be the time to choose a team with a big plus and hope that they make a big move, like somebody in the 20 to 30 range? Give me Give me somebody that, I'm sure you have all the teams in front of you right there. Give me somebody that's way down on that list that you think might maybe have a big, they're going to switch quarterbacks, or they're going to go out and, get somebody in the draft or something like that, and you really think they have a chance to move up, and you put a little bit of money down and cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Yeah, to your point earlier, I think some of these that stick out are teams like the Chargers and the Broncos. The Chargers at plus 2,800 and the Broncos at plus 3,500. You see some teams like that and some big plus signs next to them. That's some good value right there. Some that are probably a little more risky, but still, in the realm of sanity, I would say, are teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 6,500. They don't have good odds, they don't have a good chance, but at plus 6,500, I'll take them over the Atlanta Falcons or Miami Dolphins that are at plus 6,500. So that's kind of how you got to look at it. Like, okay, what do these teams do with that defense and TJ Watt? Maybe they do something. Maybe if, Justin Fields comes out and he is the starter and they really revamp that offense, you never know. But teams like that, I mean, the LA Rams at plus 2,800, that's not a bad one either. There's definitely some in here that you could really see making a run for it. Now, to win the Super Bowl, I think is a little more difficult. I think some of those teams you could pick as like a NFC or AFC conference winner and still get some good value for instead of Super Bowl. But yeah, definitely some good value.
All right, so I'm going to make you pick one. Who are you going to pick? I think I would choose Denver, and let me get an idea here. If I put $10 on Denver right now, and they are, what were they, 35, I believe.
Yep, 3,500. Right? Yep.
Okay, so that means I get $350 if they win. Yep. Is that right?
Yep.
Look at that. Look at me doing math over here.
Yeah, turn 10 into 350. That's pretty nice. I think I'd stick with you there with the Broncos. I like that. The Packers are also plus 1,800. That's not terrible, but it's not a big enough plus sign for me. I would really even consider your Bengals at plus 1,800. I think they're sick of the talk and not being as relevant as they want to be. And I think they're going to come back next season with a vengeance.
Right, but the Bengals have a similar problem to the Chiefs. They got a lot, they got Trey Hendrickson, they got T. Higgins, they got a lot of pieces that they need. Hill is a free agent. Gesicki, their tight end's a free agent. I mean, they got a lot of things to do too. So
yeah,
as much as I love them, I don't know if I'd do it right now. I might wait a little bit and see if they sign a couple of those people or if they replace them with somebody else. But they're a little risky. Let's do our kind of. Thank you for that, sir. I really like the betting odds for Super Bowl next year. 3,400. I think both of us are going to say the Denver Broncos. I might even. I don't know. I might make that bet before it's all said and done. I like. Let's transition to. It's kind of a hodgepodge here. We got, we're in that week where it's like, okay, we're starting to get into the NBA a little bit. We're starting to get into baseball a little bit. We're saying goodbye to football, or at least goodbye to the regular season. So we're moving some things around. We're shaking some things up. And we're doing a little bit of a hodgepodge one here. In this hodgepodge, we will look at something that happened 7 years ago and how it affects them now. The Philadelphia Eagles. We will look at Ryan Day and his contract, and we'll use that as a springboard. And then we'll go through, and we will also look at NFL coaches and NFL players. Some of the stats I've got for you may shock you a little bit. And then we are going to do the backcourt betting line with Money Bags over here. He's going to talk to us about which below or at 500 teams from both the Eastern and the Western Conference would be the right team to put your money on right now as far as playoff odds. in the NBA. Fade that down a little bit. Look at that. Crazy old man knows how to fade music now. Look at him. Look at him go. All right. So, but first, I'm going to put this up on the board here. Let's do this one more time. All right. I did not say anything about this in the notes. I am going to completely surprise you with this one. We are going to test the knowledge of Mitch Moneybag Middlebrook. Here it is. Devontae Smith became the 5th player in history to win a Super Bowl, college football national championship, and Heisman Trophy. Can you name the other 4?
Ooh.
Cool. What is he doing this to me for? Why is he going to make a fool of me on a podcast that,
Did Cam Newton
millions
win?
and millions of people are watching?
Did Cam Newton win the national championship? Is Cam Newton one of them?
Cam Newton is not one of
Joe Burrow. No, obviously no.
them. He's not won the Super Bowl yet.
Yeah.
I wish he would.
I gotta get one of these. I'll get one of these.
USC was very popular, by the way. USC has 2 of the 4. Pittsburgh has the oldest one.
Reggie Bush?
Yes,
Nope.
Reggie Bush. You did get one. Yes, that is correct. Reggie Bush, the USC national championship in both 2003 and 2004. Of course, he had to give back his Heisman, but he eventually got it back again. And then he won Super Bowl 44 with the New Orleans Saints.
Yep, with the Saints. Yeah.
Win. But yes, Reggie Bush is one of them. You want to take a few moments, or you want me to just feed you the other 3, sir?
Yeah, let me try to get one more.
Okay, and the one that I didn't talk about yet was from Michigan, by the way. That's for college. So Michigan and 2 USCs. Reggie Bush was USC. So Michigan, USC, and Pittsburgh are the 3.
Charles Woodson.
Yes, Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
Very good, sir. Michigan National Championship 1997. He won Super Bowl 45 with the Packers in 2011. So he got the Heisman and the national championship in 1997, and then did Super Bowl and Heisman as well.
All right, give me the others. There's no way I get them.
Okay. All right. So the other 2 are the 2 oldest ones. So you got Woodson, you got Bush, which are the two latest ones. He won the Heisman Trophy in 1981. He won Super Bowl 18 with the LA Raiders, and he played for USC in 1978. He is Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen, of those 4 guys. And the last guy played for Pittsburgh. He won Super Bowl 13 with the Dallas Cowboys. He won the Heisman and the national championship in 1976. Again, playing for Pittsburgh. You want to take a shot at the guy whose initials are T and D that played for the Cowboys. That is also the 4th person on this list. I feel bad stringing you out to dry, right? Tony Dorsett is the guy who is. So you've got Tony Dorsett and least to newest, right? So you've got Tony Dorsett, Marcus Allen, Reggie Bush, Charles Woodson, and Devontae Smith. So those are our guys. I thought that was a pretty nice trivia question for us. We'll take that back off the screen. We'll get down to business here. 7 years ago was the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, and Trump was also the president. Some of the Eagles players declined, and Trump eventually canceled the invitation to celebrate with him. Now, you got Lance Johnson, who is a 12-year veteran and one of the team captains, said that the Eagles would vote on it if they would actually go visit the president this year. I've got 2 questions for you, Mitch. The first one is having the team voting on it the right decision?
In my opinion, no. I don't get this. I think it's a huge honor and just kind of, what you do when you win a championship in America. You go to the White House. Doesn't matter if you agree with or you support who the president is. You go. And so, no, I don't agree with the whole voting for it. No, we'll let them decide, and then the whole team will either go or not go. I don't agree with that. I think you go. I don't even see the choice here or the question. Um, I think you go.
So let's say for a moment that you don't support Trump and that you don't like a lot of his policies. Mitch, do you still go even though you don't like the guy and you don't? Yeah, you still go.
Yeah,
Who
he's
do you
still the president of the United States. There's very rare times that you're going to agree or like everything a president does. I think you just suck it up, and it's still an honor either way. You're still, talking to the most, or you're being invited by the most powerful man in the free world. So, I really do think, you kind of put it aside and just accept it for what it is.
So then will you go? I mean, I'm throwing a few extra questions in here if you haven't noticed by our notes. But I mean, if you so do you go as far as not even saying anything? And do you think that politics and sports shouldn't be mixed, or are we allowed to be a an athlete and still have an opinion about our politics?
I think you're allowed to have opinions, and you can express those whatever way you choose. Um, People also have the right to not care about your opinion. So I think, if you think because you're an athlete it gives you this right for people to hear your opinions and for your opinion to be the loudest, I think you should also be ready to learn that that's not the case.
Okay, and I do think that a lot of these athletes think that they're special, right? And that everybody should, oh, just because I'm the wide receiver for whatever team, or I'm the goalie, or whatever sport it is, I do think they think they're a little bit special. So I agree with that point wholeheartedly. Last thing on this, and then we're going to move on to Ryan Day and the Ohio State football program. Who all should be invited to the White House? Should it just be players only? Should it be front office executives? Should it be the players, the front office, and their families? Where do we draw the line, and who all should be invited to join in with this celebration with the president?
Yeah, I think it really should be all. I think it's a huge honor and something that whole families should be able to celebrate with, their family members that are players and front office and everyone involved. These athletes and these bigwigs in the front office. I'm sure a lot of them would tell you they wouldn't be where they are without their families. So
Mhm.
they also played a role in making them who they are and supporting them to get there and win the Super Bowl. So I think they should be a part of it too. I think that'd be a really neat thing to have.
All right, yeah, I didn't think about it the way you just said it, and I got to give you your props for that. I didn't think about it as yes, the family did shape those people. But I'm sure every one of them would say, "Yes, my family has shaped me in some way, shape, or form." Oh, boy, that was awful. And should be able to be there with them when they have this kind of a celebration. Uh, Again, didn't really think about it that way, and I really like that point. Let's move on to Ryan Day and OSU. So they announced that they had a contract extension through 2031, and Ryan Day is going to make $12.5 million per season. There are 6, as we said in this question. We're gonna do a couple of things with it here. We're gonna kind of hodgepodge it with the NFL, college football, things of that nature. So we're gonna do that here real fast. There are 6 NFL coaches who made more in 2024 than Ryan Day will make. They are starting at the bottom of that list. They are Kyle Shanahan at 14 million, Sean McVay at 15 million, Jim Harbaugh, of course, the ex Michigan coach, makes more than Ryan Day. I bet that stings a little bit. He has 16 million. Mike Tomlin is also there at 16 million. And then I said we would mention these two guys when I talked about it earlier in the show, and here's where it's going to come to fruition. The number 2 highest paid coach in the NFL, believe it or not, is Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos. He makes 18 million, and as it probably should be, the highest paid coach in the NFL is Andy Reid. He is at 20 million. So here was our Twitter poll question. We are going to put it on the board. Yes, there it is. Ohio State and Ryan Day announced a contract extension through 2031, paying him 12.5 million per season. Will that be enough to keep him in Columbus until 2031, knowing what the rest of the he's going to jump somewhere. I would think he was going to jump to the NFL. That's why I did that with all the coaches. So, do you think that 12.5 million per season is enough to keep Ryan Day in Columbus until that contract is fulfilled in 2031? Mitch Middlebrook, what say you, buddy?
Yeah, I actually do, because I don't think there's too many teams in the NFL chomping at the bit to get at Ryan Day. I think right now he's found a good fit in college, and he'll stay there. I'm a little surprised. I think 12.5 million is a little low as far as like a reward goes for him winning the national championship, but I do think it'll be enough to keep him there.
All right, I'm just looking at our Twitter poll question here real quick. If you're seeing me with my eyes down, like, what is that guy doing? That's what he's doing. We already have almost 50 people looking at our Twitter poll question that we did live earlier. Certainly appreciate that. We are going to get to Mike Trout here in just a few minutes as I continue to scroll down through the feed here real quick. I wanted to see what our fan base thought about it. We have all kinds of stuff up here on our Twitter. Kenley Jansen has a new home. You can read about that on our Twitter account. All kinds of. There's like 5 or 6 people. The Reds have signed 2 players today. Believe it or not, 2 relief pitchers. One to a major, one to a minor league deal. You've got an injured Reds player. You've got all kinds of stuff here. So go over to at D643 and out pod, and it's spelled out, and you'll be able to see exactly what we got. Story up on www.weLikeSports.com about 35 years ago. We'll talk about Tokyo in a minute. That fight happened in Tokyo. We're going to have a spring training, 3 spring training games in Tokyo here in a few weeks. We will talk about those in a moment, too. If you want to know what the draft order is, you can get that from us. Man, I didn't realize we had all this stuff on here. We got stuff all over this. Man, I'll figure it out later. You guys just go on our site, continue to vote. Stop smiling, Mitch. You're like, yeah, the poor loser can't find what he wants. Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, we'll get to all that. But you said yes. You think the 12.5 million will keep him there in Ohio. But I want to ask you the other end of this spectrum that we talked about, which was the NFL coaches. Which of these 2024, and again, this was the 2024 salary. We didn't look at 2025 since it hasn't happened yet. We don't even know if those people are going to be there in 2025 as of yet. But the 2024 coaches, which one of those that we talked about earlier, Shanahan with 14, McVay with 15, Harbaugh 16, Tomlin 16, Peyton 18, and Andy Reid of 20, which one of those salaries surprises you the most?
Honestly, I think Sean Payton surprised me the most. I think I knew Andy Reid was the highest at 20 million, and I think, to your point, rightfully so, and deserved. I think Sean Payton. I didn't realize how much it took him to get him out of retirement, and how much that contract was. So that really shocked me, actually, at 18 million.
Yeah, I remember that whole thing where he basically was like, I might come out, I might not come out, it's going to take some money, it's going to take this, it's going to take the right situation. Well, he ended up getting a pretty good situation and a pretty big bag of money. So I think that's interesting. Mike McDonald was a first-year head coach here in 2024 with Seattle. He received $9 million a year, which is more than most of the coaches get in their first year. 75 players made the same or more than Andy Reid's $20 million. How many players, Mitch, do you think match or exceeded Mike McDonald's $9 million in 2024 in the NFL? Yeah, here we go. Think about this for a minute. Now, again, 75 people got $20 million or more. How many NFL players got $9 million or more? I was a little shocked with how many got $20 million or more. We're going to see the number here in just a second. How many get more than 9 million?
I'm going to say 120.
120. I'm going to tell you, you're going to be really shocked at this answer if you're really thinking 120. The number of NFL players that got 9 million or more in the 2024 season, 255.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you look at these coaches, right? Um, 50, hang on, no, 75 of them got as much or more money than the top coach in the NFL. And the first year head coach that made 9 million, Mike McDonald in Seattle, 255 of those players made more than that first year head coach. I think it's safe to say that being a player is a little more lucrative than being a coach.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Wow, that's surprising. Phew, man, that's a lot of players.
Right? That's a lot. And then, we talk about this all the time. We mentioned it earlier with a couple of teams. We talked about it when we were doing the Kansas City Chiefs breakdown. We also spoke about it a little bit when we were talking about the betting line earlier, which, by the way, that's our next segment here is the backcourt betting line. Mitch Middlebrook is going to give us some great insight on at or below 500 teams in the NBA. He's going to give us at least one in each conference that he thinks we should put our money on here. And we spoke about it earlier, and we were like, "Oh, they've got a lot of work to do. They got a lot of people to pay." And we also said the same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals, how they've got a lot of work to do and a lot of people to pay. Um, but they should be able to do it. And if you really want to look at a model, because bonuses and things like that don't count towards the salary cap, if you didn't know, and neither do the salary of the head coaches, by the way, or any coaches. None of those salaries count towards the salary cap either. So there are ways around the salary cap. You've just got to be a little creative. And of course, Howie Roseman, one of the better GMs, not the best, honestly, GM in football, is very creative as far as still paying his people, getting around the salary cap, and not having to pay penalties for his team. So you have to be able to have, not just a good head coach, but you got to have a great GM and an owner willing to spend money and all these kinds of things. Everything kind of has to fit together in a nice, pretty puzzle with all the corner pieces and everything else to get an NFL team that even makes it to the playoffs. Never mind get to the Super Bowl. So we're going to kind of wrap everything up there. Mitch will talk about the backcourt betting line once again. For the backcourt betting line. We will get to MLB four pitch talk here in a moment where we will talk about a cap and two patches. We'll talk about can Mike Trout return to his form that he once was in 2025? And we will also talk about the age of Major League Baseball players and how that's affecting their free agency. And then we will talk about the Tokyo series as well. And then we will do the batting practice betting line. Mitch will give us that right before we exit everything here today on the Sportz Truth. Mitch, this is not the only place where people can watch the Sportz Truth here on Twitter. They can also watch us over on YouTube. Tell them a little bit about that, buddy.
Yeah, you can find our YouTube at the 643 and Out Pod. You can follow along, like, subscribe, and get our full form content there right after the show. But we're also there live. You can follow along and leave our comments just like Saran was earlier in the show. Makes it really easy, depending on what platform you're on. That comment section is going to be a little different, but that you can always comment and interact wherever you are watching along with us.
Right, and even if we don't get a chance to interact with you live, like we're looking at everything right now, myself and Mitch both, we're looking at it live on X. If you happen to go over to YouTube, you like that platform better, or you don't have an X account or whatever it happens to be, we're not going to interact with you live on YouTube, at least not yet. But we will answer your questions if you put them up there on the comment section for us. Once again, we love engagement and we love all of you joining all of us here at Sportz Truth. And we are, of course, the 643 and Out guys. All right, Mitch, the backcourt betting line. Which at or below 500 Eastern Conference team has the best playoff odds? So for the Eastern Conference, and I want to compare the two conferences here. I did this kind of on purpose. You have a bunch of choices for the Eastern Conference as far as 500 or below. You can choose from Philly, Brooklyn, Toronto, Chicago, Atlanta, Orlando, Charlotte, Washington, and Miami. All of those teams are either at or below 500 in the Eastern Conference. We'll do a little bit more digging into that here in a moment. But tell me, Mitch, um, which one, which one of these teams would you choose? But before you tell me, let me explain to everybody the NBA playoffs and how they work. You got the top 6 teams ranked by record. Those teams that finish 7 through 10 technically still make the playoffs and are involved in a 4-team 3-game tournament to get the 7th and 8th seed. So let me clarify what I'm going to ask for you, Mitch. I'm going to ask you who do you think has the best odds of all of those people to make the top 8 seeds and actually make what I'll call the real playoffs. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think these lines are going to surprise you. So I'll give you all the lines of the close teams, at least the ones that the sports books have, because some of them they're not even going to take the line on. But there's 2 surprises here, actually 3 surprises. One of them is a pleasant surprise, I think. So Miami Heat are currently 25-26, 1 game below 500 in the 7th seed currently. They're going to be minus 475 to make the playoffs. Surprisingly, the Orlando Magic, who are 26-29, in the 9th seed in the East right now, are minus 400 to make the playoffs. So pretty close. The one in the middle here, the Atlanta Hawks at 26-28, currently in the 8th seed in the East, are at plus 105 to make the playoffs. Plus money to make the playoffs, and they sit ahead of the Orlando Magic in the standings right now. So that's where I'm putting my money, is the Atlanta Hawks at plus 105. Not only can they let the Magic pass them and still, win 2 games in the play-in or win 1 game in the play-in if they get up a few more seeds, they can also fall 2 places and still make it to the play-in and have a chance to make the playoffs if they win both their games in the play-in. So I'm taking the Atlanta Hawks at plus 105 here. I think those are the best odds. To your point, the 7 through 10 seed, the Bulls are in the 10 seed right now at 22-31, 9 games below 500. Most of the sports books don't even have odds on the Bulls making the playoffs right now. That's how little of a chance they give them.
Oh, you need to know, right?
Yeah, and so I'm taking the Hawks at plus 105. I think that's the best odds for sure as far as the Eastern Conference goes.
Well, I mean, of course, those are the best odds, but is it just me, or does that just not make any sense, Mitch?
It doesn't make sense to me. I think evaluating the teams, I don't really understand it. I think Trae Young, out of all those teams, has been there. I guess maybe with the deadline moves that the Heat made, they're projecting them to have a really good second half of the season, and so that's why it's so low. But the Orlando Magic line is the one that doesn't make it the most sense to me. I don't really understand that one.
All right, that's interesting. Very interesting. I don't look at any of this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mitch Middlebrook's specialty. I just kind of look at things, set some things up, and throw them over to him, and I'm just as surprised as the rest of you are when he gives us these lines and things like that. So let's see if any of these choices for the Western Conference make any sense to us. Which at or below 500 Western Conference team has the best playoff odds? Mitch, you can choose from Phoenix, San Antonio, Portland, Utah, or New Orleans. And while you're doing that, I'm going to get some updates on some NBA games real quick, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, this one's an easy choice for me. Really the only one that sticks out, and because the Warriors and Kings are just 1 game above 500, they're not qualified for this one. It's the Suns right at 500. The Suns right now to make the postseason are plus 230. So yes, they have a long way to go. They're currently the 11th seed in the West. But plus 230 for a team with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, I'll take that any day. I'm putting my money on the Suns for that huge plus, and I think they have the best chance. The Spurs, I will say, they're in 12th in the West right now. They're 23-28, so they've got a long way to go, but they are plus 600. If you think Wembanyama puts things together and really starts to trend in the right direction and continue his dominance and with these moves with De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul, what they can do, that might not be terrible at plus 600, but they do have a long way to go and a lot of teams to jump to make it into the postseason.
I do have to say, though, I like the trajectory. We talked about trajectory earlier. I like the trajectory of the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about this probably in a few weeks when we get a little closer to when the NBA Finals hit. I have, as I've discussed before, I really don't get into the NBA a whole lot until after the All-Star game. And, that's what I believe next Tuesday or something like that. I think it's the same day we are on.
Yep.
So I guess I'll start getting into the NBA a little more. But right now, I am hyper focused on spring training, and we'll get to the baseball stuff here in just a couple of minutes. The updates on some of the scores that we have right now, there are 3 games going on and one more later on tonight. That game later on tonight will start at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is less than an hour away from now. Memphis will be in Phoenix. But the games that are going on right now as we speak at halftime, Detroit is absolutely clobbering the Chicago Bulls. And I had to look. I refreshed it on purpose to make sure it was not going to be a ill score. Detroit is beating Chicago at the half, 71-29. That's the real score, ladies and gentlemen. I swear it is. 89-85 is the score in the third quarter with 2:29 left. The Knicks over the Pacers, 89-85. And a 3-point game with 5.3 seconds left in the fourth quarter in Philadelphia. The Raptors have a 3-point lead at 106-103. All right, Mitch, thank you, buddy. We appreciate that. So now we've got our backcourt betting line out of the way. We got our backfield betting line out of the way. Got some great information there from you on both of those. Once again, that we could do on those, as well as a lot of the other stuff that we're doing today. Let's go to our MLB 4 pitch talk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go 4 pitch talk here. We're going to talk about CC Sabathia. We're going to talk about Bob Buehler. We're going to talk about Pete Rose. We're going to talk about Mike Trout. We're going to talk about a whole lot of older players. We are going to talk about Kenley Jansen, Justin Turner, some of those guys. We're going to talk about the 6 teams that made the MLB playoffs in 2024 in our batting practice betting line. And then we're also going to do a little bit of a preview and a look at see how excited Mitch and I are over the Tokyo series that's going to be taking place here in just a couple of weeks between a team that I know Mitch and I don't like and then the other team that neither one of us like because they're in the same division as our other 2 teams. So we'll take a look at all of those things here over the next few minutes. So thank you for sticking with us. It's time for the MLB 4 pitch talk. All right, fade that down a little bit. Let's talk about CC Sabathia first, Mitch. The announcement was made today of what caps. Well, not today. It was actually yesterday. My apologies. What caps would be done for the Cooperstown plaque, and it was reported that CC Sabathia is going to wear a Yankees cap instead of a Guardians cap. I'm just going to ask you a real simple 3-word question. Are you surprised?
No, I'm not. Just this the way CC talks about his time in Cleveland, and I don't know if you've had a chance to see his documentary on Netflix. I think that's when he was really struggling with his alcoholism in Cleveland, and so I think he thinks back on that time a little less fondly than he probably would otherwise. It's a lot more emotion and memories that come to him there than it would, just based on what's on the field. So I understand that. I also think, when you're a Yankee and you put on those pinstripes, it's really special to you. So it doesn't really surprise me. I get it. But man, I was hoping you'd go in with a Brewers cap on. So I'm a
Well, I'm
little
sure you were.
disappointed.
He did have one really good season in a Brewers uniform, though.
Hmm.
I mean, not really career defining per se, but he did have a really good season. Let's talk about the seasons that he had. Cleveland, he had 8 seasons there, and he did win the AL Cy Young Award. In New York, he had 11 seasons, and he won a World Championship and had his only 20-game season. So I'm going to be with you. I'm not surprised. Um, and I'm going to throw this out there. I don't know if anybody else will, but there's some of the other pundits out there that talk about these kinds of things. I wonder if it's because they're not the Indians anymore and they're the Guardians now. That is I'm probably going to get in some trouble here because I love Goodyear Ballpark, and we're going to try to get some tickets and things like that for some of those games. And I'm working on maybe doing a podcast live from that ballpark, but I can't stand that name. That logo's terrible. Baseball with wings on it looks goofy. Um, I'm not even sure what the heck a Guardian is. So I don't know. If it was me, and that was kind of my final decision, was I'm weighing those options. Like do I really want to go in as a Guardian? No, I probably want to go in as a Yankee.
Yeah, I agree, and especially when that's not the team that's not the uniform, and it's not the team that you wore. It's not the
Right.
team that you repped when you were there. So yeah, I agree that that's another piece on it as well.
Yeah. So Dick Allen is going to go in as a Philly with the Phillies cap on. Ichiro, of course, is going to go in with the Mariners cap on. Billy Wagner is going to go in with a Astros cap on. The one that hurt me a little bit, but again didn't really surprise me. Dave Parker, I had a little flicker of hope that he might go in with a Reds cap on, but I think Dave Parker is synonymous with We Are Family, Pittsburgh Pirates, and
Yeah.
he is going to go in with the Pittsburgh Pirates cap on. We're going to do something else a little different with our Twitter poll question. We had one before the show about Ryan Day and whether he would be there at Ohio State. You can go to at the 643 and out pod and vote on that poll question. We've got a live one going on right at the moment. That's getting quite a bit of hits on it as we are talking live here with everyone. That one was the one about the Chiefs and what will they be next year. Next year, the Kansas City Chiefs will. And then you've got your 4 choices: go to the Super Bowl, playoffs, no Super Bowl, no playoffs, or finish below 500. You can choose one of those responses and be part of the show. And then as soon as the show goes off air, we are going to have a post-show party Twitter poll question, and it will be this one. Something that I didn't, man, I fashioned myself as a knowledgeable baseball guy, and I didn't know this until I was doing research last night. The players nor the team get to choose which hat they wear. It's actually chosen by the Baseball Hall of Fame. They actually make that decision. I thought that was a little awkward, but that I looked it up. That is 100% what happened. The
Wow.
Baseball Hall of Fame gets to make that choice. The team does not. The player does not. And our after party Twitter poll question will be: is that the right move? Having the National Baseball Hall of Fame choose which cap players wear when they are inducted into the Hall of Fame. So we said a cap and 2 patches. Let's talk about these patches, Mitch. I'm sure you've seen at least one of them. The Brewers announced this season that they are going to wear a uniform patch in honor of Bob Uecker. Have you seen the patch, Mitch?
I have, yeah, really, really nice. Designed really well for the guy that Bob Uecker was. I really like that they tossed in some of that flannel and plaid for that. His crazy suit jackets that he would always wear on the Tonight shows. I thought that was really neat. Really, really glad they chose to do this. It's a really nice honor, and and to kind of continue on with the trend of the great baseball men that they're both our favorite teams are honoring with patches this season.
Right. So the patch will be for Bob Uecker. Mitch has described it for you a little bit. It'll have the plaid in the background, has his autograph over top of it. They will wear it on their sleeve. And as he also said, Mitch's team is the Brewers. He kind of sort of likes the Tigers too. But you're a Brewer fan first, right?
Yep.
Yeah. See, and you're a Diamondback fan in there somewhere because both of us now live here in Arizona. I will. If you haven't seen me drink out of the cup, there we go. There's the cup, right? So I'm representing them a little bit here on the Sportz Truth. The Cincinnati Reds are also going to honor someone with a number 14 patch. And both of these patches, you can see them on our Twitter page. I put them up there at the 643 and out pod. Of course, it is the at that's right below my name here on the screen, so you can go over to that and see them. It's simplistic, but it's pretty neat. I liked it. I really like the Euchre patch that appears on the sleeve. It have the signature over the golden navy plaid print to honor, as Mitch said, his various sports coats. Um, Bob Uecker passed away January 16th at the age of 90. The Reds debuted the 14 patch yesterday on Twitter. Very, very cool how they did it. Again, you can see it on our page. We reposted it for everyone to see. It says 14 on our side all season. Pretty neat. They will wear that patch on their sleeve as well. He passed away in September. I know that we all know Bob Uecker was an older gentleman. He was 90 years old. I did not realize Pete Rose was actually 83 when he passed away. So Pete Rose, 19 to 24 seasons with the Reds, known as Charlie Hustle, 17-time All-Star member. He was a part of 3 World Championship teams. He owns 3 batting titles, 2 Gold Gloves, and of course 4,256 hits. So not only I don't know if you know this yet or not, Mitch. Did I put it in here? Oh, I did not. I did not put it in our notes. I have it on my little side notes here on the side. Um, the Brewers are going to debut that patch in the first home spring training game. They're actually going to wear it through spring training as well. So they're going to debut the patch on the 22nd of February against the Cincinnati Reds. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It will be against the Reds. So it'll be interesting to see if the Reds wear the patch too. I don't know if they'll do it for an away game, but they're at I just lost the name of the stadium, the insurance company, American Family Field.
Family Fields, yeah.
Yeah, so they will be doing that at American Family Field. Once again, if you want to go see that game, September 22nd, that's Saturday, and you'll be able to see it. It will have a split squad. The Reds team will be a split squad because they're also going to play in Goodyear against the Indians as well. So we'll talk about some terms and things that you need to know for spring training. In fact, we either do it next week or the following week. Things you need to know for spring training. We'll bring you all of those things. Here is our second pitch. Once again, something that can be sponsored. First pitch, second pitch, third pitch, fourth pitch. The second pitch. Can Mike Trout return to form in 2025? Mitch, what do you think?
I think this is a really tough question because it really depends if he's on the field or not. If he's on the field, I don't have questions on if the guy can play, especially at the plate, but it's his ability to stay on the field, and especially when he's playing the field. If in that sense he can, stay in form and actually stay out there, I think that's really the tough part. But at 33 years old, it's going to only be getting harder for him to do so. So I think, I don't have any concerns if he's actually healthy and on the field, but we just haven't ever been able to see Mike Trout do that throughout a full season. And it's really tough to put your confidence in him the older he gets, again, now 33 years old.
Yeah, I wanted to get the stat here real quick. So, of course, MLB Now comes out with their top 100 right now. Mike Trout has actually been number one in 8 of those 14 times that the list has come out. I don't think that any of us even think that he'll be close to number one this particular year. But can he be there in that top 100? Is when you think about that, Mitch, and I know I didn't throw that question in there. I just saw that come out on our X page. I did repost it for everyone here who are fans of ours. They can see that. Will he be in the top 100?
Oh, I think yeah, for sure he'll be in the top 100 because they're only going to grade him for when he is on the field, and they'll drop him a few slots because of his inability to be on the field consistently. But yeah, he definitely will be in that top 100.
But he's not had great years over the past couple. Hang on, I'm pulling it up right now. I probably should have had this ready, but I failed to do so. Um, so let me give you some of his overall stats. When I say, can he get back to form, right? Let me give you the glory map per se of Mike Trout. It is 13 years of service time. He is signed through 2030 with a 12-year, $426.5 million contract. Here are his accolades: 3-time MVP, Rookie of the Year, 9-time Silver Slugger in those 13 years, 2-time All-Star MVP. He was the MVP of the All-Star game twice. He is an 11-time All-Star and a ton more. But, Mitch, he has a career 86.2 WAR. Last year, his WAR was 1.1. He was only 1 percentage point over an average player last year because of the fact that he wasn't on the field. WAR is wins above replacement. And 4 of the last 5 years, his WAR has been 3 or under. That's 4 of the last 5 years. And you're still thinking that he's a top 100 player? You don't think outfielders like Acuna and those kind of guys have surpassed him? Where are you putting Mike Trout?
Yeah, no, he's clearly still a top 100 player when he's on the field. That's the tough part for him. But yeah, I mean, you kind of did my work for me, listing all those accolades that nobody else on that list has those accolades on that top 100 list. Nobody.
That's true.
And so that's why I think he's top 100. And he has had some rough seasons late. On paper, last year, he had 109 at bats and 10 home runs, but only hit 220. So it's really, small sample size. It's tough to say, but yeah, if he's got to string together long periods of health, he can't, play 10 games and then go out with injury and then come back, 20 games later and play 10 more games. He's got to string together 50, 60, 80 games in a row without going to the IL to really get in a stride and bust out of this slump that we've seen.
Right. I mean, back in 2016, if we're going to go, from the way back machine and talk about Mike Trout, 2016, he walked 116 times. Last year, he walked 16 times. So 100 times less. You're correct in what you said, but nobody else has the accolades that Mike Trout had. Correct. But what I'm asking you for, and what that list is on MLB, is the top 100 right now. Is he a top 100 player if you consider his career? Absolutely. There's no debate with me if that's what you want to do. But I don't know if I'm going to put him in a top 100 discussion today. As we look, we're getting ready to start spring training, as most pitchers and catchers reported today. I don't know. I want to, I respect him for what he's done and all of those kinds of things, but I just don't know if I can do it. You can still do it. You can put him in the top 100 right now.
I think so. Only because of the upside, and it's really hard to say because you have to assume, okay, top 100 when healthy, or you can't really evaluate him not healthy. You say, well, is he a top 100 if he's hurt? Well, no one is going to be in the top 100 if they're hurt. So it's kind of weird because he can't stay healthy more than likely, but if he does, he's probably in the top 100.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's really tough to say because you have to evaluate him healthy, but he's rarely healthy. So it's really tough to say.
So I'm gonna throw this in there. This was not in our show notes, and I apologize if I'm kind of putting you on the spot with this, but I think to be I guess a top 100 player is a superstar. Okay, that's how I'll kind of label these top 100 players. Would you pay to go see Mike Trout? Is that still a guy that if you know he's there, like if you're in Anaheim next weekend and you know that he's going to be there, are you paying to go see Mike Trout?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've made my company pay to go see Mike Trout. We always do an annual spring training outing, um, and on the 24th of this month, we're going to Tempe Diablo to see um, Mike Trout and hopefully Willie Adames. Hopefully, both of them play.
Hang on,
Um,
I'm writing that down. What was that date again, sir?
the 24th, yeah. So hopefully they play, but yeah, I was a big push in get my company to sponsor that or get us all to the game. So yeah, he is still a guy that I think brings people to the ballpark. You just gotta hope he's playing.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. He's owed 37,116,667 a year. I don't know what that number means to him. It has to mean something because it's the number of the next 6 seasons for him. So it's from age 33 to 38. Assuming that he returns to form, should the Angels trade him at the trade deadline if he returns to form? They get he's back, and they sell it like that. And then they get rid of that money that they owe him, and they get some really good prospects back, and they start to build around that. Or do they say yes, Mike Trout is back, and we're going to build around Mike Trout? Which one would you do?
I think they're gonna ship him out. I just don't think they're willing to spend like they need to put a contending team around Mike Trout, and I think they've messed with him long enough that they're gonna try to get what they can. Um, I think the Angels are at a point now that they know they're not going to compete for a while. They're a ways away, and they've kind of just been throwing money at players that they probably shouldn't be for the last few years, and I think they're trying to get out of that. So I think, yeah, if Trout does have a good first half of the season, they'll try to ship him out and kind of um, fall to the wayside for the next few years, and then maybe come back and build something with the prospects they get for him.
Okay. I kind of think the same thing. I've been saying this for 2 or 3 years. They need to trade him to Philadelphia. He's from Jersey area, Millville. I think he would really be he would turn into an instant classic there. He'd be a hometown hero there. I mean, I know Philly has a huge payroll now, but I think if Philly had Harper, Trout, Schwarber, and then they got a pretty good pitching staff too. I think if they want to if you want to make a team that might beat the Dodgers, put Mike Trout in Philly and see what happens. Yeah. So okay. John Heyman put out a post a couple days ago that I want to take a look at in our third pitch here. So there are still plenty of free agents, some veterans, and most of them are 35 plus. And I'm gonna rattle off some of these guys to you, Mitch, and I'm gonna ask you: would you say no to them based on their age alone? All right. So you're going to see me turn away from the camera for a second as I read the names off the other laptop that I've got over here on my left. So guys that are 35 years old: Mark Hanna, Corbin, Rizzo, Iglesias, Matt Moore, Nervous, Robbie Grossman, Smiley, the pitcher. Those are guys 35, 36 years old. Again, all these guys are still free agents. They're all sitting out there. They've all done their time. They all know what's going on in Major League Baseball, and nobody has signed them yet. JD Martinez, Kenley Jansen is on this list, but he was signed earlier today, so he is no longer on this list. Gibson and Lynn. There's only one guy that's 38 years old. Johnny Cueto is on this list. David Robertson, uh, Ottavino, Matt Carpenter is on the list at 39. Then Justin Turner is still out there. Gurriel is still out there, and of course Hill, the pitcher, is still out there as well. Hill's 44. Turner and Gurriel are 40. Would you look at any of these guys and just say you're too darn old? Don't even contact
Yeah, and the only one is Rich Hill. I think he's just gone. I think he's too old. I think he's been too old for the last 2 seasons now. Every time I've seen him go out there, he just gets shelled. So, if you're gonna have somebody get shelled, at least let it be a young player that can learn from it and build off it, and try to work on things. Rich Hill, you know what you're gonna get. He's a 43-year-old man, and you're gonna get at best 5 innings out of him. So no, I think he's too old. He's the only one that I would stray away from just based on age. A lot of these other guys I would stay away from, but for other things than just their age. But he's the only one that I would say just too old.
Okay, so give me an example of somebody on that list that you would not take a look at. And again, for those of you who are wondering and like, I want to see that list, go to at 643 and out pod. We reposted this on our Twitter account. You can see the list sent out by John Heyman. What about Rizzo? In the same division as I know he was with the Yankees for the last few years. Would you give Rizzo a chance at first base?
I don't know. I don't think I would, just because of the struggles that he's had, in the price tag that he's going to come with. I don't think he's at the point yet that he's ready to accept, a really a contract that I think he'd be worth. So I don't think he's one that I would. Yuli Gurriel is the other one that I would stay away from, not only because of his age, but just because of his production and what he's been able to do recently, along with being 40 years old at this point.
Well, I mean, you got Adam Duvall out there. You've got Whit Merrifield out there. Really good players. I would say in their prime. They're not going to be the superstars that they once were, but they can give you a good bench at bat. They can help your young players along if that's the kind of team you've got. What about JD Martinez, Mitch? Would you take a shot on like a 1-year, $10, $12 million deal for JD Martinez to DH?
I don't know for that much. I think that's a little high. I'd be interested to see. I mean, he couldn't stay on the Mets last season when the Mets weren't very good. So it's hard to say. I don't think I'd take a chance on him for much more than the league minimum, and I just don't think he's going to be willing to sign for that.
The last one I want to ask you about, and the one guy that I think I would take off this list first would be Justin Turner. I know he's 40 years old, but he can play multiple positions. He's still good with the bat. He would probably be the guy. If I'm looking at all of those names, and Cannon, Corbin, Rizzo, Iglesias, Moore, Neris, Grossman, Smiley, Quintana, Kimbrel, Kyle Raleigh, Duvall, Merrifield, Pilar, JD Martinez, Jensen, Gibson, Lynn, Cueto, Robertson, Ottavino, Carpenter, Turner, Gurriel, and Hill. I'd say Turner would be the guy I'd take a chance on more than anybody else. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you there.
So then, Mitch, let's talk about them in general. Let's talk about baseball players and as they get older in general. And I'll ask you, do baseball players have a shelf life?
Oh, yes, 100% they do. And it's a pretty short one, too. There's a very, short amount of time, especially compared to other sports, that you can get especially the prime out of some of these guys.
All right. So what makes or what can make their shelf life shorter?
I think it's just the nature of the game, honestly, how quick and how fast the game moves. Being able to make adjustments at the plate, and just how difficult hitting a baseball is. That's really what's going to keep players in or out of the game. and you just have to have those quick twitch muscles. And once you start getting up there in age, especially, you just can't do it. You lose those quick twitch muscles, and you simply cannot make the adjustments to combat major league pitching.
So then, if we're going to talk about what makes the shelf life shorter, can things like a DH or go from a starter to a reliever, can that lengthen the shelf life of a major league player?
Definitely, it definitely can. There's been studies, and research done that the average length of a position player in Major League Baseball is somewhere around 5.6 years. Um, for pitchers, it's even shorter. For starting pitchers, it's even shorter. It's 2.7 years. So it's really, really tough to be a good starting pitcher for a long time in Major League Baseball, and that is why we see so many of them go to the bullpen, as you mentioned.
All right. So before we get to the last one here, and then we dive into a couple other things real fast, I do want to mention John Anderson will be on with us next week. He will be our special guest. John Anderson can be found on Twitter at JONPGH. He's a big fantasy baseball guy. He's got MLB projections, automation. He does the MLB data warehouse. He does a Substack, and like two other sexy guys I know, he does a really good podcast as well. So he'll be on with us next week, first hour of the show. We'll talk a lot of baseball, a lot of fantasy baseball, a lot of things that I want to ask him. He puts out a lot of great content. So you want to go over to his X page again. That is at John JON capital PGH. So JONPGH. Give him a follow. Look at the things that he puts out on his Substack and on his MLB data warehouse section. Some really great stuff for those of you who like to get into the nuts and bolts of fantasy baseball. We will do that right here next week on the Sportz Truth with John Anderson. So, do you think some players, and the reason why some of those older players are on that list, is because they won't accept a quote unquote lower role, right? So they've been a superstar, they've been a really good outfielder, they've been a great defensive guy, and then all of a sudden they turn 35, and you're like, hey, you can't run like you once did. You can't die like you once did. So go over here, sit on the bench. If we need you, we'll give you a call, but you'll still be on our 25-man roster. Do you think sometimes the ego gets in the way, and these players are just sitting out there, and they'd rather get paid nothing than they would to get paid something and come back in a lower or lesser role?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think that's 100% exactly what it is. I also think it's a lower payroll that they won't accept,
Mhm.
and that's really what it comes down to. Not only, I'm sure any of them would be happy to take a lower role with the same amount of pay, but will they take a pay cut and a lower role? I think is tough for a lot of them to swallow, especially if they don't feel like they're over the hump.
Right. I think that cup right there was really helping people out because every time I drink out of it, it covers up my face. People can't see it. All they can see is the bottom of that cup. Everybody's like, "Oh, thank God! I wish you'd drink from that cup more often." So, yeah. See how you do yours. Yours doesn't even cover the mustache. I mean, you sip right out of that thing.
You got to keep the moneymaker.
Right. Got to keep that going, buddy. Got to keep that going. I will tell you that Kenley Jansen. I mentioned that he got signed today. Did you see where he got signed today, sir?
I didn't actually.
Ah, so we were talking about that team earlier. The Anaheim Angels signed Kenley Jansen to a one-year deal today. So trying to put some things around Mike Trout possibly. The last thing I want to look at on this particular subject, and then we got two more things to do before we bid everybody adieu. Do you think the qualifying offer has anything to do with this? And there's three big guys out there right now who have a qualifying offer attached to them that still aren't signed. Technically, Alonso is not signed yet, so I will count him in one of those three because that contract is not final. So until they sign it, it's not final to me. Alex Bregman, of course, is still out there. He has that attached to him, and then pitcher Nick Pivetta is also out there having that draft pick compensation. You'll get a competitive balance pick in between the first and second round, and then of course the team that signs him is going to lose that. So Do you think that has an effect on signing these older players?
Yeah, definitely. I think it does. I think they're still waiting for a lot of these hats to drop, and until they do completely, I know, like you said, Pete Alonso. Yet we've seen, well, they have an agreement, but why isn't it signed yet? If they have such a good agreement, I think a lot of teams are kind of waiting to see if that falls through and what that might look like. And I think they're doing that with all these guys.
All right, so we're going to do our fourth pitch here in just a second. We're going to look at the Cubs and Dodgers in the Tokyo series. But and then after we do that, I want to set up the batting practice betting line again. But we're going to set that up as well here. So last year, 6 teams made the Major League Baseball playoffs in 2024 that did not make them in 2023. And what are the current odds of those teams making the 2025 playoffs? We'll look at those teams and what those odds are here in just a moment. So the Cubs and the Dodgers will play the Tokyo series here in just a couple of weeks. Um, are you? Give me your level of excitement from 1 to 10 for this particular series, Mitch. I'm almost scared of this answer, but give me a number anyway.
I think the series is kind of cool as a whole. Now the teams make me probably a 2 on the excitement 1 to 10, but the series as a whole is cool. I like making baseball in Major League Baseball a global game. I think it's interesting and a cool chance to, we know the game of baseball is huge in other parts of the world, but Major League Baseball, for them to be able to go over there is I think a really cool thing. These cities just don't get me going, or these teams, I should say.
Okay, so then I take it then you've already kind of given away the answer for this one, but which would make you more interested in this game, being in a different city or being it with different teams?
Yeah, different teams for sure. Different city. The city doesn't really make a difference to me. I think it's really cool to find that international market. But yeah, the different teams, I just can't watch the Cubs or the Dodgers.
Yeah, but I think both of these teams were chosen because they have some players on them from the city, right? I mean, Major League Baseball did this strategically. They're never probably going to come out and say it, but I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, they wouldn't have the Reds and the Brewers play up there because neither one of our teams have anybody from Tokyo. So,
Yep.
I do think that makes it a little bit interesting. You said like a 3. I'm going to go. I don't like the Cubs or the Dodgers either, but there are some pretty neat storylines to look at. Will Shohei Ohtani pitch? And Dave Roberts has already come out and said probably not. He didn't say definitely no. And Shota Imanaga will pitch for the Cubs. So, what do you think about those 2 storylines moving forward with the Tokyo series?
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting when I saw that Shota would pitch. I think that's a really cool thing to do for those fans that are going to come out there and see him. I can't imagine Shohei would pitch in this series. I think they're gonna try to hold off as long as they can for Shohei, just to kind of put him in bubble wrap. But I think that's really cool and a nice treat for those fans.
Well, over the weekend, I did see some video that leaked from Dodger camp. He is already at Camelback Ranch. He was thrown off a mound on either Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure which day it was because it was, leaked footage. It didn't have like a date on it or anything like that. But he is pitching off a major league mound, so we'll see how all that goes, and I'm sure we'll talk more about Shohei Ohtani and his pitching prowess as we get closer to opening day. How do you think the crowd will react to Seiya Suzuki? And what I mean by that is, do you think they'll react positively to him, even though he left them and went to America, or do you think maybe they'll boo him, because of that?
I think they'll react positively. I think they'll be really excited for him. I think for a lot of these fans, it pains them to see these guys come to Major League Baseball because they obviously don't get to see them as much. But they're also really happy for them, and they know that's kind of their dream, and that's their peak for them is making it to Major League Baseball. So I think they have mixed emotions for sure, but I don't know how often these crowds boo. I think American crowds probably boo more often than other international markets. So I would expect a pretty warm welcome.
So what you're saying is that Americans are more opinionated than some of the other countries out there.
Yeah, I would say so.
All right, all right. Last thing on this topic, and then we're going to jump into the batting practice betting line here. And I think this is kind of an interesting question, and that's kind of why I put it at the end here. Is starting the season in Tokyo fair to these two teams? And tell me why or why not.
You know, I think we talked about this last season too, and I still don't love it. Um, I don't know if fair is the right word, but I just don't love it. I think it's tough to start a season that way, but I also think that it's the start of the season, and it's a lot easier to do that than, say, like a random trip in the middle of the season. You know, that could really throw off your funk and
Mhm.
make things really difficult, especially those large travel days. So I think the start of the season is the time to do it. Um, but I do think it's a really unique and difficult situation for players that aren't used to that, and that no other teams will have to do that throughout the major league season. The NFL is a little different, where they do have these international games and markets, and um, it's not always just one or two teams that are going to be taking these huge international trips. This Major League Baseball, when it's just these two teams, it does seem a little less fair than maybe the NFL does it.
Well, but the NFL also has a week to prepare, to where
Exactly.
their games are a week apart,
Yeah.
and baseball does not do that necessarily. I've always thought it would be kind of a unique thing to come back from the All Star break and give whatever two teams go somewhere foreign soil place, that they give them a few extra days. The All Star game is usually on like a Tuesday, and then they wouldn't actually play until like maybe they play a doubleheader on Saturday, then they play on Sunday, and then come back home, have Monday off, play again on Tuesday. So I always thought that would be kind of an interesting spot to do. But I agree with you that maybe fair is not the word. It's really the only word that I could think of, but I don't think it's a disadvantage necessarily because of the way they're starting, in spring training and things like that. The only thing that I will say is spring training. You and I see it up close every year. We're right here in beautiful Arizona. We're going to go to a lot of these games. Like I said, my goal was 20 games this year. So spring training is for a lot of those youngsters to get their work in, especially in the start of spring training to get everything going. And I think sometimes that these international games, because you've got games in the middle of what they're doing that mean something to them, right? They actually count towards their records. That some of those younger kids for those two organizations might not get the shot that they would if they were on another team. So that would be the only part of it that I would say is unfair. Mitch, you ready for the batting practice betting line, buddy?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay, here we go. So 6 teams made the MLB playoffs in 2024 that did not make them in 2023. And for those people who are like, we have a great article right now up on www.welikesportspc.com talking about the salary cap and what we can do. Do we need to fix it? What needs to happen? Some great reading. Our good buddy Logan is over there. He is hammering that stuff out, man. So we appreciate him, and I know he collaborated on this article with the person who actually doesn't write for us, which was a neat twist. And the two of them got together and put their opinions out there. Once again, you can go to our Twitter page at 643 and Out Pod. We have it up on there, and then you can also go directly to the website and read that article and a bunch of other ones that are really good as well. Go to www.welikesports with a Z PC.com. Before we do the betting line, while we're throwing all this stuff out there, we may as well toss it all on the wall and see what sticks, right? So, what's our Twitter? What is your Twitter, Mitch?
Yep. You'll find me at MitchellBrook52 on Twitter.
Now, I talked to the owner of the site earlier, and he says that as soon as we're done here, shortly thereafter, it's going to be posted up on Amazon Podcasts for our fans as well. And then they can go to YouTube. Mitch, how do they find us on YouTube, buddy?
Yep, you'll find us at the 643 and Out Pod on YouTube, as we talked about earlier. Feel free to like, subscribe, follow along. You'll find our whole podcast right there after, right when we're done wrapping here.
Absolutely. And you can also find the replay on our X account as well. It'll be pinned to the top of the page here shortly as soon as we're done with this one. If you haven't got a chance to see this, by the way, Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes Sr. and John Rocker, the ex-Atlanta Braves closer, have really been going at each other on Twitter, X, whatever it is. If you get a chance to look at these things back and forth, they're pretty funny. By the way, I'm laughing because he's Patrick Mahomes Sr. just put a post up too. I've got these on my follow thing, so pretty funny to see that. But Mitch, I tell you what, man, let's do the last thing here. Let's wrap everything up, and let's get to the batting practice betting line. Once again, 6 teams made MLB playoffs in 2024 that didn't make it in 2023. Those 6 teams are the Guardians, the Mets, the Padres, the Royals, the Tigers, and the Yankees. Of those 6 teams, what are their current odds of making the 2025 playoffs? And which one of them would you put money on to make the 2025 playoffs? I'll let you have the stage, buddy. You go.
Yeah, we'll start off. There's only going to be one of these that is not plus money to make the playoffs this season, which is surprising actually. And it's the New York Yankees. They're minus 390 to make the postseason this year. So not very good odds there. That's kind of the end of what we'll talk about them. I wanna focus on.
That's all right. We don't need to talk about the Yankees anyway. Don't worry about that.
Exactly. I want to focus on these other 5 teams that are all at the exact same odds to make the postseason right now at plus 110. So we've got the Royals, the Tigers, the Guardians, and the Phillies. The Mets are actually they're the only ones that aren't at the plus 110 as well. They're also a minus. They're minus 250. So we got one AL team that's minus, and then one NL team that's minus. Both the New York teams, so the Mets and the Yankees, minus. We'll kind of leave those to the wayside because I'm actually really interested in these Padres and as well as the AL Central teams, all of them being at plus 110. This tells you that Vegas has no clue what the AL Central is going to produce this year. Doesn't even have a favorite for the AL Central. I think they are really at a loss with this, which is surprising that not one team gets the edge out of those 3. They're all at exactly 110. You might expect some variation of 110, 100, 105, 120, but nothing. Nope, they got them all ranked at the exact same spot, which is a little bit surprising. That's where you're going to find your value here. I think if I put my money where my mouth is on any of these guys, I'm going to take the San Diego Padres because I do think that, at plus 110, they have what I think the best roster and best chance to do that. Now they are in the hardest division for sure, and one of these AL Central teams has to make the postseason. Well, I suppose they don't have to, but I would really, really bet on one of these teams winning the AL Central. So you would more than likely expect that one of them does make the postseason, and all at the same odds. You could really put your money anywhere for them.
I see this has been like the theme of the show today. I was going to basically say if there's one team I'm not going to touch, it's the San Diego Padres. I don't really believe in this team. They didn't show me anything last year. They really haven't changed their roster a whole lot. And to be honest with you, I think they're going to trade at least Dylan Cease and maybe even Michael King before the end of the season. So I think they'll get worse as the season goes on. If you're going to make me choose Guardians, Royals, Tigers, right now I would probably go Royals and then Tigers because I like a couple of the moves that the Royals made. The Tigers really haven't done anything. And I mean, the Guardians are like the Chiefs, right? We always bet against them because we're thinking, oh, they got all these young kids and they can't do anything. And lo and behold, here they come. They always seem to do something. So, but that could also change too because as we know, Alex Bregman is out there, and if Alex Bregman signs with the Tigers, well, then I'm going to go Tigers. So a little bit of uncertainty here when we're looking at all of these teams and what is their chances of making the 2025 playoffs. So you wouldn't touch the Yankees or the Mets, right? Because they're plus money, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you actually exactly on those AL Central teams. I really like what the Royals have done, and the Tigers just haven't done enough for me. Um, I think if Bregman does sign with them, I think it's still close with what the Royals have done this offseason and how they were building last season. That they feel different to me than the Tigers did. It felt like the Tigers kind of used up all of their magic in this run, and it feels like the Royals were still like building on that magic. And I think they could still continue building into this season. So I'd probably put my money there if I had to with one of those AL.
100%. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, where the Tigers were on the upswing and they haven't carried that momentum into the offseason, where the Royals still have signed a few players. I'm over here on my Twitter account to my left. Mitch told me last week I had too much information around me, and maybe I do. But I want to give everybody this because I think it's interesting, Mitch. Philadelphia is closing all their public schools on Friday. You know why?
I don't.
So the kids can attend the Eagles Super Bowl parade. Yeah.
Wow.
They're giving the kids a chance to not have to call in, right?
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. So, Mitch, I'll give you a few seconds here. You want to have a final word on us as we're playing ourselves out with the bagpipe rock theme, buddy?
All I'll say is thankfully, we're not talking about a three-peat right now. Thank you, Eagles. The refs, you even saw it in the first quarter, and at times throughout that game, they were trying to help the Chiefs as much as they could. And exactly like we said, if you blow them out of the water, the refs can't do anything about it. If you leave them close and you give them a chance, the refs are going to make an impact on that game. And the Eagles did enough to where they wasn't a question. So thank you, Eagles. We are not, talking about the Chiefs in the same sense that we were a few weeks ago. So that's all I got to say. And man, I cannot wait for baseball.
Right, spring training is close, buddy. Close. I can't wait. I almost went yesterday just to see a couple things. So anyway, of course I have to call one more time before we go off the air. But thank you guys very much for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all very much. So as we wrap everything up, we always say it because we always mean it. And we'll leave you with this. The only thing that's fair in life is baseball hit between the third and first base line. Good evening, everyone. For myself, Mitch Middlebrook, have a great day.